The battlefield of Kryn 7 was a symphony of chaos. Plasma bolts screamed through the air, carving molten trenches into the crimson soil. The Zalathi warpacks had descended upon the human outpost with savage efficiency, their crystalline armor gleaming like shattered starlight. Commander Celine ducked behind a collapsed shield generator, her rifle hot in her hands, her breathing measured despite the madness surrounding her. She was the only human left standing in Sector 9. The Zalrithi were apex predators, 7-foot-tall bipedal felines with obsidian claws and eyes that burned like dying suns. Their reputation preceded them across 17 star systems. They didn't take prisoners, they didn't negotiate. They simply conquered, and they did it with a grace that made death look like art. Celine fired 3 rounds into an advancing warrior's chest plate, watching the energy dissipate harmlessly. She cursed under her breath. Standard-issue weaponry was useless against their armor. She needed to fall back, regroup with what remained of her battalion, but the Zalrithi had cut off every escape route with tactical precision. Then she heard it, a sound that cut through the cacophony of war like a knife through flesh. A child's scream. Celine's head snapped toward the sound. 50 meters away, perched precariously on the upper level of a crumbling structure, a Zalrithi cup no more than 4 years old by human standards clung to a support beam. The building groaned, its foundation compromised by artillery fire. The cub's golden fur was matted with dust, its wide eyes reflecting pure terror. And then the beam gave way. The cub plummeted. Celine didn't think. Her body moved on instinct honed by a lifetime of split-second decisions. She abandoned her cover, sprinting across open ground as plasma fire erupted around her. A bolt singed her shoulder. Another cratered the ground at her feet. She didn't slow down. 20 meters, 15, 10. The cub fell in what seemed like slow motion, its small arms flailing, its mouth open in a silent wail. Celine dove forward, sliding across the blood-slicked ground, her arms outstretched. Time crystallized into a single perfect moment. She caught the cub. The impact drove the air from her lungs. She rolled, cradling the small body against her chest, shielding it with her own as debris rained down around them. When she finally stopped, she was on her back, gasping, the cub trembling violently in her arms. The battlefield had gone silent. Celine's vision swam as she struggled to focus. Every Zalrithi warrior within visual range had stopped fighting. Their weapons, which moments ago had been unleashing hell upon her position, were now lowered. Some pointed at the ground. Others hung loosely at their sides. 200 pairs of burning eyes fixed on her, on the human who held one of their young. The cub whimpered, pressing its face into Celine's tactical vest. She could feel its rapid heartbeat against her ribs, could smell the fear scent that poured off its small frame. Slowly, carefully, she shifted into a sitting position, keeping her movements gentle and non-threatening. A massive Zalrithi warrior stepped forward from the enemy lines. His armor was more ornate than the others, marked with battle honors and clan sigils. Ravler, the war singer of the Crimson Pack, Celine recognized him from intelligence briefings. He was a legend, responsible for the subjugation of 6 human colonies. Ravler approached with deliberate steps, his claws retracted, his posture radiating something that looked almost like reverence. He stopped 3 meters away and sank to one knee, pressing his fist against the ground in what Celine's xenocultural training identified as a gesture of profound respect. "You risked your life," Ravler said, his voice a deep rumble that carried across the silent battlefield. His translator rendered the words in perfect English. "For a cub that is not your own. For a child of your enemy." Celine's grip on her rifle tightened, though she made no move to raise it. The cub in her arms had stopped trembling and was now watching the war singer with wide, curious eyes. "It's a child," Celine said simply, her voice hoarse. "That's all that matters." Something shifted in Ravler's expression, a softening around the eyes that seemed impossible for a creature so fearsome. He rose to his full height and turned to address his warriors, speaking in their native tongue. The guttural words rolled across the battlefield like thunder. One by one, every Zalrithi warrior followed their leader's example. They knelt, pressing their fists to the ground, their heads bowed. It was a display of submission that no human military analyst had ever witnessed. No recorded battle in history showed the Zalrithi yielding to anyone. Ravler turned back to Celine. "The cub is Kessa, daughter of our clan mother." She wandered from the safe zones, drawn by curiosity, as children are. He paused, his burning gaze intense. You could have used her as a hostage. You could have let her fall. Instead, you abandoned safety to preserve her life. Like I said, Celine replied, carefully standing with Kessa still in her arms. She's a child. Raveler's lips pulled back, revealing rows of crystalline teeth. It took Celine a moment to realize he was smiling. We came to Kryn 7 believing humans were weak, driven by fear and self-preservation. We were told you would sacrifice anything to save yourselves. He gestured to the kneeling warriors around them. You have shown us what we could not see from orbit, that humanity's strength lies not in its weapons, but in its capacity for compassion, even when facing annihilation. The war singer extended his hand not in threat but in offering. The battle is over, Commander Selim. The Crimson Pack withdraws. Your outpost will not fall today, nor any day while I draw breath. This I swear by the eternal hunt. Celine stared at the offered hand, her mind racing through tactical implications, political ramifications, the sheer impossibility of what was happening. Then she looked down at Kessa, who gazed up at her with eyes full of innocent trust, and made her choice. She took Raveler's hand. The war singer's grip was firm but gentle. He carefully took his daughter from Celine's arms, cradling her with surprising tenderness. Kessa chirped something in Zaurathi, pointing at Celine and chattering excitedly. She says you smell like courage, Raveler translated, a note of amusement in his voice. And that your heartbeat is steady, like the great drums of our homeworld. He looked at Celine with newfound respect. She is not wrong. As the Zaurathi warriors rose and began their withdrawal, Raveler paused. This war between our peoples, it need not continue. Today, you have planted a seed that may grow into something neither of us anticipated. Peace, perhaps. Or at least understanding. Celine watched as the Crimson Pack departed, their crystalline armor catching the light of Kryn 7's twin suns. In the distance, she could hear her coms crackling to life, voices demanding status reports, requesting orders. But for this moment, she simply stood in the settling dust, watching a warrior carry his daughter to safety, and wondered if maybe, just maybe, humanity's greatest weapon had always been its heart. The battlefield of Kryn 7 fell silent once more, but this time, it was the silence of hope.